Okay,
Your recording is on.
awesome. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Planning Commission for the town of East Lyme. Today is the 1st of December, 2020, and I'm showing 7:01. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and this meeting is being held via Zoom. We're going to do a quick roll call. Michelle Williams,
Here.
Thomas Fitting,
Here.
Richard Gordon,
Here.
Nicole Davison.
She's here.
I think I saw her.
Yep.
Okay. I think I heard someone say here. Okay. You there, Nicole?
Yes, here.
Okay. Mary Salvatore
Here.
and myself, Kirk Scott. I see. So we have a full board, it looks like, tonight.
Yes.
I see Brian Baumbach was here, and I think is Elizabeth Allen
Not
online?
yet, but I know that Elizabeth sometimes comes in a few minutes late. So
Okay, well, that's fine. So let's get to it. I got a couple of things that I just have to remind everybody. If everybody could just remember that while they're unmuted, we can hear everything that's going on, and we can also see you if you have a video camera. So just try to keep that in mind. Board members and staff will be unmuted during the entire meeting. There's an executive order. Everyone must state their name, where they are from prior to speaking, so that they can be identified. During public delegation items, all lines will be open for comment. Please wait to be called on by the chairman before you speak. Once you have finished speaking, please mute your microphone or your phone. During each agenda item, only the board, staff members, presenters will be unmuted to speak on a particular item. Only one person will be speaking at a time. Members and alternates for all motions, please state your name for the record so we know who is making the motion. Only hosts are permitted to share their screens, and the entire meeting will be automatically recorded by Zoom. Additions to the agenda, I'm seeing none, which brings us to public delegations. Public delegations is a time when members of the public are invited to speak to the commission about certain matters. Issues or concerns related to approved wetland permits and in-house proposals or general topics or of discussion are open to comment. Agenda items, referrals, applications subject to a decision by the commission, a public hearing, or in litigation may not be discussed. The members of the commission will not directly answer questions or make comment during public delegations. Excuse me. Is there anyone wishing to speak for public delegations tonight?
I don't see any raised hands. But if we want to wait just a minute, I'm going to unmute. Niantic neighbor, did you want to speak during public delegation?
No.
I'm gonna take that as a, yeah, I'll take that as a no. And I don't see anybody else having
Okay.
hand raised or unmuted. So
That brings us to reports, communications. I'm showing none received. Is that correct, Mr. Gatel?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Zoning representative, did we have a zoning meeting between then and now?
There's a meeting this coming 4th, correct?
Okay,
yeah, but there was a meeting on November 19th.
okay,
I'll attend the Thursday meeting this Thursday. I think I have scheduled.
great. Thank you, Rich. So that brings us to ex officio Mark Salerno.
Good evening, everyone. Just real quick, public safety buildings in full swing. That's going well. The budget season's among us. I know you have it on your agenda, so we'll be doing. We get to start the fun part of the annual town budget this winter. And just one thing to note: if you've noticed that there's more higher chlorine in the water, that's because we're using water from New London right now to meet the manganese level that the state requires. The construction that's going on behind the middle school is going to connect it, and we'll be filtering out the manganese ourselves, and we'll be back to normal. So just something to note that I've noticed doing the water. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Salerno. Planning Director, Mr. Gaishel.
I have nothing at this time.
Subcommittee, Planning POCD Steering Committee update. Ms. Williams, do you have anything?
No action since we last met. Little breath in between here, but Gary and Jen, I take it everything's on its way, ready to go. Yeah.
Not
Yes.
quite, but we're getting there. We have a few more pieces we have to put together to get it sent up electronically to OPM, but
Okay.
it's in the process, yes.
So the update is we're almost done.
Fantastic.
Well, it's been updated. We just got to submit it within the 60 days.
Okay, well, it's in good hands there, so thank you for that. Which brings me to the chairman, myself. I don't really have much to report other than thank you for putting a copy of the bylaws up. I'd like to ask all the commission members to read the bylaws, and also Jen forwarded an email with a link to me and I think Michelle regarding some training that related to town planning. If we could send that to all the commission members and have all the commission members take some time and review it, I think I read through it a couple of times. It's really useful, and it really gives you some good background about how we should be conducting our business. So I think that those two pieces are really valuable, and I would encourage everybody on the board to have a look at those. Which brings us to acceptance of meeting minutes from November 10th, the regular meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the meeting minutes from November 10th?
I'll move to
Or
approve
are there any corrections to be made before we get to the motion? Okay,
I will move to approve the minutes of November 10th. Michelle Williams.
thank you, Michelle. Do I hear a second?
I'll second Richard Gordon.
Thank you, Rich. Any discussion about the meeting minutes? Okay, so I'm going to do a roll call vote. Michelle Williams,
Aye.
Thomas Fitting,
Aye.
Richard Gordon,
Aye.
Nicole Davison,
Aye.
Mary Salvatore,
Aye.
and Kirk Scott. Aye. Okay, let the record show that we approved the meeting minutes from November 10th. Okay, so that brings us to public hearings. So, Mr. Gaishel, would you like to start us off with that? Or should we start the public hearing again?
Yeah, you'd want to just open the continuation of it.
Gary, did you want to read the short list of new exhibits?
And what usually have a
let's-
statement continuing the public hearing, so that, yeah. And then I'll
All
read
right,
it.
let's, the time is 7:11, and we're going to open the public hearing. Continuation of application of Kristen T. Clark, PE, for English Harbor Asset Management LLC owner. Application for a 4-lot subdivision of approximately 3.8 acres of land zoned RU40 located at 20 and 24 Upper Kensington Drive, East Lyme, Assessors Map 40.0, Lot 22 and 23. With that, Mr. Gaishel,
For the record, we have Exhibit XX was a ledge light review of November 30th, 2020. We also received some additional, I guess, ZZ. There were brief comments by the applicant. I'm sorry, I think I'm reading that. I think that was the only thing that came in that I'm aware of. I think the applicant, they did reach out late to me today and submitted an additional iteration of the plan, which we can certainly incorporate into the public hearing record. But staff certainly doesn't have time to review that plan, and obviously the Ledge Light Health District would need to review it as well. I believe the applicant is here tonight. He can comment on that, and then they would like to add the plan. Obviously, we'll add it to the record.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Gaishel. Mr. Garrity, would you like to make some comments?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Paul Garrity Minano for the applicant, English Harbor Asset Management. Last night at 5:15, Mr. Chairman, we received the review of the septic systems from Ledge Light. It approved one and could not recommend the other two, requesting some additional changes or information that we today revised those plans. That's, I think, maybe what Mr. Gaishel is talking about, and submitted those along with correspondence. There should be plans that were submitted yesterday that we dropped off at Ledge Light along with a cover letter. And then there was another letter today following up on some additional changes to the plans and some explanations. And I don't know what the timing in terms of Ledge Light is for review of that, but we tried to turn it around as quickly as possible, knowing full well that staff was not going to be able to look at it before tonight's hearing. And I know I tend to sound like a broken record on this, but we had been reaching out to Ledge Light since we met with them in November, mid-November, early November, to try and get questions or comments addressed. My client wrote to them on November 10th with some explanatory notes in response to their correspondence of November 9th. And the first we heard back was last night, which leads me to the point where I think if Mr. Gaishel had a chance to review my math, but his email from the November 10th date indicated that we had 35 days left before the public hearing had to be closed. And I know we chose today because we thought we would have Ledge Light's response in enough time to do this and close the public hearing. But since we only received it last night and had to respond to it, we'd request that the hearing be continued to the 15th of December. I think that's the outermost date that we could do that. But I don't think my client should be penalized for Ledge Light only responding the night before the public hearing again.
Okay, so what we have bottom line right now is a letter from Ledge Light saying that the plan that was submitted and reviewed by them is insufficient to support 2 of the 3 lots, right? And so you have a plan that was just submitted today to update it. That's all accurate?
That's correct. If I briefly, what they asked was we relocated one of the septic systems to the existing, and there's an existing improved system, if you recall, on the lot. We had relocated it. We put it back where the existing improved system is. There were some points that they raised in Ms. Holmes' letter about whether MLS was required. We don't think it is, but we want to talk with them about that because that's the existing approved system. And there were also just some questions about locating the wells within the 75-foot perimeter within the boundary line of each of the properties, rather than having some overlap. All of that was taken care of in the responses today. So we think we've addressed her concerns as to the 2 lots that she said were not suitable for septic based on the information she previously had.
So we have till the 15th, and it looks like by the schedule. I guess with that, I would probably want to have a quick consensus among the board members here that everybody would be able to and willing to support a special meeting. So, and also would town staff, are we in a position where we would be able to have a special meeting for this? To extend it?
So if my math is correct, I believe we only have 12 days left of time. We've exhausted, based on the math that I have here that I used in an Excel spreadsheet. And we had continued to this evening. I believe if we were to close it this evening, we'd have to render a decision by February because we'd have the 65 days to render that decision. But aside from that, so we could extend out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would say before the 13th of December, we should meet. It would be probably next week if we held a special meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
yeah.
Gary, I'm looking at your November 10th, and I think you did do a further calculation, but on that one, you indicated that there were 35 days left as of November 10th, which that's how I came to the calculation of the 15th. A day here, a day there probably isn't going to make a difference if we can get Ledge Light to review this, you know.
Right. In either case, I think I would prefer, I mean, if I'm going to rely on my 12 days as being accurate, but I can always go back and recalculate that. Again, I would say if the commission was open to holding a special meeting next week, I mean, if listening to what the changes are, I would think that Danielle could, you know, if you obviously address the MLSS issue, if you don't need to provide that, that certainly, you know, is a major hurdle. And then the well arcs, obviously, if you address that, that's easy enough to see on the plan. So I would think you could just quickly look at it and generate a review. I would think within a week's time. That, you know, again, with Ledge Light indicating that they've been behind, I don't know what accommodations, I don't know if you've been in, you know, obviously you have been in very limited discussions with Ledge Light, and the communication's been, you know, hampered, I guess, obviously by COVID and the rest of it. So, I mean, it's up to the commission if they'd like to extend it out. We could go to the 15th, but I'm thinking we might be shy a couple of days.
I'm looking at my calendar. The 15th is 2 weeks from today.
That's correct.
So if we did another meeting on the 15th, that would satisfy the scheduling requirements. Is that true?
I believe we're 2 days short.
You mean 2 days short, as in?
The 12 days runs out on the 13th, Sunday.
So then that week is out. So then that leaves it with next week. What days are the conference lines and town staff available next week?
Well, to my knowledge, this conference line, if you will be available every day next week. It's really whether or not we can get the commission together.
Okay.
The only date that it wouldn't be available would be Wednesday.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not really excited about having another meeting. I'm willing to, but I guess we need to get a quorum in order to make it even worth doing or talking about. So I'm going to open that up to the rest of the commission members. I'm just going to go down the line here and kind of talk to everybody and see what days people would not be available. I'm pretty much available all week next week. It doesn't really matter to me. Does anyone, Michelle, do you have any ideas or things holding you up for next week?
I don't think so. So I
Okay.
can make a meeting next week as well.
Mr. Fitting?
Yeah, I mean, I should be all right.
Okay, thank you. Richard?
I am available any night.
Yeah, you have the zoning thing on, what is that?
This Thursday.
This Thursday. Okay, thank you. Nicole?
I
Are
am
you-
available. I am.
Okay, Thank you. Mary?
I am available.
Okay, thank you very much. Yep, thank you, everybody. So, all right, if anybody has a day that they would really like to make it, you
Well,
could
I would-
just kind of give a shout out.
I would suggest the 10th, short of anyone wanting to meet on a Friday. And that would be the furthest date out.
I'm okay with that.
Thursday night. And I would suggest maybe we make a motion just to continue the public hearing to that date.
Okay, so let's say the 7 o'clock on Friday,
You mean Thursday?
Thursday,
Not Friday.
7 o'clock Thursday, whatever the date is.
December 10th?
Okay. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
No, not to close.
Not to close it, to continue the public hearing to 7 PM on December 10th.
I'll
I'll
move
make a
to,
motion.
oh, good. Yeah, Mary, you do it.
Yay. I'll make a motion for continuation of this application for Kristen T. Clark to December 10th at 7 PM.
Do I hear a second?
I will second Nicole Davison.
Thank you, Nicole. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm gonna move to a vote. Michelle,
Aye.
Tom, Fitting,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Nicole,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Kirk, Scott, aye. Okay, so we're gonna continue it next Friday,
Thursday.
Next
Thursday,
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday, yep.
Okay, let the record show. Thursday, 7 PM, 10th of December. Okay, so moving on, we're gonna, application of Carol York, owner, application for one lot subdivision of approximately 1.4 acres of land zoned R12 and request for waivers from section 7-2-1, 6-12-2, 6-8, 5-2-2 CII, and 5-6 on property located at 92 Old Black Point Road, East Lyme, Assessor's Map 8.3, Lot 132. With that, we'll open the public hearing. And the time is 7:24. Mr. Gaishel, if you will.
We have several items that were added to the record. Exhibit L, email of Bruce, if I pronounce this right, Dupuis, D-U-P-U-I-S. Exhibit M, email of Michael Fulham. Exhibit N, signed CAM application. Exhibit O, updated waiver request and narrative. Exhibit P, updated site plans dated November 30th, 2020. Exhibit Q, a confirmation of the water and sewer availability. And that was all we added to the record.
We had one more, Gary, the last email you sent me. Exhibit R would be an email from Mr. Sabatini.
Okay, thank you.
Did these make it onto the website? As
I
you're
don't-
reading, I'm not finding.
All of them except Exhibit R were on the website. They should be.
Can
See
can
them
we,
well.
are these like short emails or are they long emails? Because I didn't honestly have a chance to read all of them.
They're relatively, I think, short. Scrolling to them.
So I think that's an important pieces of information that,
Yeah, I could use some further guidance. I'm seeing an exhibit list on our materials that lists everything you just mentioned, but can't get to the actual exhibits from there.
It says public hearing exhibits of 92 Old Black Point Road.
Yes, but it's a P. Oh, below
They're-
that.
They're
Thank you.
all together. Yeah, I
Thank
think they're
you.
out of order. I've tried to fix that
Okay.
twice and it won't.
I knew that it was me, so I appreciate you.
And
helping
I
me with that.
think, I
I
don't
did
know
the
if I-
same thing, so yeah, I wasn't.
They may not be up there. Nope. And we lost Gary because his computer crashed. But
I see them now in the longer PDF. Thank you.
You're looking at the Old Black Point exhibit list PDF or the public hearing exhibits?
The public hearing exhibits right below that exhibit list PDF. And if you, I was able to scroll all the way down and find these.
Oh, I see. It's like at the end.
Yeah. Thank you, Jen.
you're welcome. If you want me to make it bigger, just let me know. I can make it bigger.
Did Gary make it back online?
I think he's.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm on my phone. I'm waiting for my computer.
That's
Stuff.
okay. That'll give us a minute to make sure that we get the gist of what these emails are talking about.
Let me know when you're ready for the next page.
And that other thing is the CAM report. Is that what that is?
Yep. So then we had another email from Michael Fulham. We had the CAM application, which is here on my screen. They submitted an updated waiver request, which I think clarified what they were looking for, as well as gave the narrative that might have been asked for.
So that last email, I didn't see it in the.
It didn't make it there because it
It
only
didn't
came in
make it.
this afternoon, but the
Okay.
last email,
Could you just like give us a quick gist of what the contents of that would be, please?
If you can give me just a second, I can
Sure.
show it to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Did we get Mr. Gaishel back in full?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
All right, so let's, with that, let's continue on. So we had a chance to review the emails. It looked to me like they were pretty much supportive from what I could tell. Do we have a sense of which of the email or which of the abutters sent us an email or have emails here?
I don't know for certain. I just know that most of those emails were from those who attended the previous public hearing. Obviously, had discussions with the applicant and reviewed the plans in greater detail. So, I mean, the letters are part of the record. So I think we can go forward and, give the floor to the applicant to let them finish the explanation of their plan.
Okay, sounds good. Let's see, Mr. Fanner, right?
We have Attorney Markovitz here, I believe, for the applicant.
That's
Oh.
correct. Okay.
And Carol York.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I proceed?
Yes, please do.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, Attorney David Markowitz. I represent Carol York. I'm a partner at Hassett and George, practicing in our Simsbury office at 945 Hot Meadow Street. Although I was not present at the first public hearing, I want you all to know that I have had an opportunity to review the prior hearing on the video. I've also had an opportunity late this afternoon to go through the application packet as you have just had. The only item I did not see was the last email that arrived late today that Jennifer put up. With me this evening on this Zoom meeting, which I can tell you I'm not a lover of, is my client, Carol York, and our professional engineer, Bob Fanner. He will go over some items with you, and if you have any questions, I'm sure he'll be able to respond. Carol may want to respond to questions as well, but that's up to her. As you know, this is an application for a subdivision to create one new lot for my client's property located at 92 Old Black Point Road. That parcel is 1.4 acres. It is located in an R12 zone, which was discussed at the last meeting. The subdivision will create one rear lot of 0.9 acres on which my client intends to build a new home for her and her family. The rear lot was previously approved by the zoning commission. At the November 10 meeting, there were a few concerns that have been addressed, and I want to review those with you if I can. First, as noted, the original application included a request for 5 waivers. We are now only seeking 4. The request for a waiver for open space has been eliminated because a conservation area has been added to the rear of the lot and is shown on the new plan that was submitted by Bob Fanner. If you look at, I don't know if you have it on, perhaps Jennifer can put it up, but if you've seen the new subdivision plan, you'll see to the east, the crosshatch area, which abuts the old Black Point Associates, That's the conservation area. It complies with section 7-2-1 of the subdivision regulations and will act as a buffer to the east. Pursuant to section 7.3- or 7-3-E of your subdivision regulations, it will be subject to a conservation easement without public access. So it will remain basically as it is today. Bob Fanner, as noted, has submitted a written waiver request and a narrative for the 4 requested waivers. That's pursuant to section 4-12 of your regs. He will review those with you shortly. Second, it was noted at the last meeting that a CAM review form had not been submitted. As noted, it has now been made a part of the file. If you have any questions about it, or if you want Bob to review it with you, he'll be able to do that shortly. Third, it was also noted at the last meeting that you require a note for the record pertaining to the availability of sewer and water to the new lot. There is now an email from Brad Carpel to the planning director, which states that sewer and water is available to the proposed new lot. Before Bob proceeds, I'd like to address some of the concerns that were expressed at the last meeting concerning the home my client intends to build on the new lot and its obstruction of views of the water. I asked Bob to speak briefly about the views and what kind of views there are currently. I wanted to go a little bit further. I want to review and put on the record what Connecticut law is. And I'm going to be referring to Robert Fuller, who is affectionately known as the Dean of Land Use Law. He has written a treatise entitled Land Use Law and Practice. And in section 4.48 of that treatise, I'd like to make a quote for you, if I can. He says, and I quote, "In Connecticut, property owners have no right to an unobstructed view from structures built on adjacent property. The only exception to this is where there is an express statutory provision or there is a contract or restrictive covenant protecting private right to a view or vista." A contract or restrictive covenant might be a view easement, for example. I can tell you that there are no statutes which guarantee views and vistas, and there is no provision in either the East Lyme zoning regulations or in your subdivision regulations which deal with that. Bob will now review the waiver request with you, the minor revisions to the plan, and respond to any questions you may have concerning the CAM review. When he is done and there are no further questions either from you or from those in attendance at this Zoom meeting, I'd just like a few moments to close, and I thank you very much. Bob?
Mr. Fanner?
Hello, Bob Fanner from J. Robert Fanner and Associates, 37 Grand Street, Niantic. As Mark had said, we made a few revisions to the plan to try to meet some of the concerns that had come up at the last meeting. And I think one of the major concerns we've been talking about was, again, the view, as well as, and that I think kind of came into play with some of the waivers. So one of the first things that we did is come up with the area that we could deed now as a conservation area to meet the requirements for the open space. So we have met that now, so that has been removed from our waiver request. And I think that was kind of a strong sticking point at the meeting, as it is, you know, an important part of the regulations, as well as part of the POCD mentions open space periodically. So we were able to incorporate that into the plan and remove that waiver from our request. We still are requesting the same waivers as before. I have submitted a new sheet, which we had looked at briefly going through the exhibits. So what I did is I expanded on the request that was submitted the first time And I kind of added a paragraph below, kind of line for line, addressing each waiver and each one of the waiver requirements in the regulations. You have 7 requirements that shall be met for you guys to have the ability to grant the waiver. So I've gone through each one of those basically and answered each one of those. So kind of at the beginning is kind of a synopsis of why we think we should get the waiver. And then line by line, I've gone through each one, addressing it. And again, these are, I think, some much easier waivers to grant based on what they are. The first one is a sidewalk waiver. Again, there are no sidewalks within over 5,000 feet, actually 5,700 feet along the road, or 4,100 feet as the crow flies, so to speak. So we're not in any area that would require a sidewalk. Those are, there are some set areas that if we're within school districts and things like that, that do require us, we are outside of those. The other one that we had talked about at the last meeting extensively was the stormwater management. Again, we're asking for a waiver on this, but it is actually not a full-blown waiver that we're asking for. There is actually a provision within your drainage regulations or stormwater regulations that allow us to do a lower level for smaller projects, which is the path that we did choose to go. However, we do still need to ask for the waiver to have that. So again, I've gone through and I've answered each one of your 7 requirements below that for the stormwater management. Again, I want to talk briefly on the stormwater while we're on this, because we did address stormwater. We're asking for a waiver, but it's not that we didn't address anything. We have constructed a rain garden to take care of the rain and the increased runoff, as well as treatment. The third waiver is the preliminary resource impact plan. Again, we have done some of the items in there. We did get our report from the historical, or the drawing a total blank. Our
State archaeologist.
Our archaeology report. Thank you. We did get that report from the state archaeologist, and we did also do a referral to the National Diversity Database for threatened and endangered species. So we did submit that application. We did get a response from them stating that we would have no adverse impact to the threatened and endangered species that are in that area, which mostly fall in the area of the salt marsh adjacent to the property. The last report or the last waiver is the pesticide report. And we are asking to waive that, as there's no evidence of any historical work on this property that would mandate having such a report done. We do feel that we've minimized the waivers where they can be minimized and addressed all of your issues on that. The other big thing that was asked for us was to do a CAM report, which is a coastal area management report. We did hand that report in. It is quite an extensive report, just in the form itself. On small residential developments like this, typically if we were building just a house and we were in the same location, we would actually be granted a waiver that we don't even need to do a CAM report. And one of the reasons that they have that is that these CAM reports were meant for very intensive development when it happens near the shoreline, or more than likely, it's usually on the shoreline, constructing marinas and things like that. But nonetheless, we still need to go through the process, answer the questions, and give the information. So we have presented the report here. Most of the stuff that we have done as part of the subdivision, such as the rain garden, soil and erosion control, minimizing impervious areas, driveways proposed to be a stone driveway. We're not going to do a paved driveway. So all those things that we've already done are things that are part of these CAM reports when you do them. So we have gone through and addressed all of the items in there. We have very little chance for any impact to the resources here, as we are so far away from the wetlands and the resources that are trying to be protected. we're over 300 feet from the resources, and there's all sorts of land between us. So we have great opportunity for everything to be filtered through our rain garden, as well as the lawn areas they go to before they ever enter into the Long Island Sound, or it's actually the Patagonia River. It's actually the mouth of the river right there. If anybody has any questions on that, I would be glad to go over it. There's not a lot of meat in it because, again, there's not a lot that we're doing that impacts any of the resources, because we don't have any direct impacts on those in shorelines. One of the other questions that did come up at the last meeting was the placement of the house as far as solar gain and heat gain and stuff like that. There has been a note added to the plan, I believe on sheet 2 at the bottom of the plan.
Hold on, let me make it smaller.
Okay. So basically, note at the bottom of the plan stating that the layout of the lot the point of the regulation there is that we have the ability to usually position the lot such that we can take advantage of solar gain. We don't have any roads or anything we're doing here, so we're kind of stuck with our lot configuration, but we have an advantage that we have a very large lot in comparison to the house that will be built on it. And there's plenty of room and flexibility on that lot for the design of the house and the positioning of the house to take care of solar gain. As far as what you face the north and get the most sun out and stuff. So we have added that note to the plan, as that was something that had come up at the last meeting. I don't believe there were any other items that we needed to, oh, I know what we're talking about. Yeah, the view easement. So there was some concern last time about the blocking of the views to the water. And if, Jen, if you could just pan that plan a little smaller, the one sheet that we're on. So as you can see, yep, that's perfect. So the properties to the north, which is the top of the page there, were some of the neighbors that were inquiring about their views. And I would note that this piece of property here, as most of you know, as you go down Old Black Point Road and as you come in, this property comes up at a gently sloping rate. It's probably about 5 to 8% as it comes up. So the higher you go up the hill, the more elevation you have. So obviously you can see over a lot of these houses. But the other thing is we have a very small area that we're going to block. The houses are very far away from us. So their view towards us, the sharper their view, the less they're looking at the water and the more they're looking at all the lots along the land. So even though they have necessarily no deeded rights to the view, they're still going to have a lot of the view that they have before. We're not going to block it by building a rather small house in the middle of a river or a large lot. So I think that they're still going to have their views, and we're not going to impede on them in 100%. Will we block some small percentage of it, depending on what you want to look at? Absolutely. But we also have the right to use our property and put those structures on there by right. If anyone has any questions, I would be glad to go over any of the items that we presented tonight and moving forward with the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Penner.
Thank you.
I guess we'll open it up to the public.
If members of the public want to speak, they simply need to say so in the chat box or to just raise a hand. I do have one person by phone. Barbara, I know sometimes it takes a moment for us to be able to connect, but if you're there and you'd like to speak,
Who's speaking before?
I would offer Barbara Johnston if you want to speak.
So many people.
Hello?
Barbara, can you hear us? Go right ahead.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. No, I have no comments. I believe everything's been covered. And thank goodness for that setback for the open space.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board commission members.
I do have a few members of the public that I think might like
there's
to
more?
talk. Yeah, I do want to go through them just to make sure we cover everybody. I have Henry Cates. If you want to unmute yourself, did you want to speak?
Yes, hi. Well, this is Janet Knox with Henry Cates. We're together. So we're at 86 Old Black Point. And first, stepping back after last meeting, looking at the number of exemptions that were required to approve this raises an issue, because I wonder why we even have zoning laws if there are so many issues that have to be waived. So just starting there. And the one that obviously affects us and our neighbors is the Scenic View. And I just heard that that was taken care of, but I'm not seeing the consideration and how. And if this sounds like a ballpark estimation of the house will be such down an elevation and it shouldn't affect their views. If they want to, it would be very helpful if they do it more analytically so we could actually see exactly how high the house will be and how it will or will not affect our views. I'd appreciate that, and where exactly it will be on the lot. Would they be able to provide that?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Finner, do you care to comment? Or anyone from the applicant?
Sorry, I had to unmute. I'm sorry. Yeah, I will address that. Again, this is a subdivision application. We're not proposing to build anything at that point. We are required to show the ability of the lot to be built on. We've met those requirements. We don't ever have a complete plan of what the house will look like. In our particular case, we have the person that will build the house, but again, she has not gone through the expense of having an architect draw up house plans and draw up a plan for something that has not been approved yet. That's not how the process works. So I understand the neighbors' concerns there, but unfortunately, we're developing a lot. We're not developing a house right now. And again, the views, we went over that, and I don't think we need to address that any longer. But we've shown the house there as an approximation, again, as a presentation for suitability, which is required by the regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Fanner. Is there any other members from the public that are wanting to address the board?
Excuse me, with due respect, I just want to comment to that comment because I'm not hearing what was said earlier, that we were just told that our views would not be obstructed, but now we're told that it's very mercurial. Well, the house hasn't been, we're looking at the subdivision, so if there's no guarantee that the views will not be obstructed, what is the value of even going through this exercise? It's because in the end, we will have obstructed views of the scenery that is in your regulations. So once they get to subdivision, then we have no recourse, correct?
I think Attorney Markowitz would like to speak.
Yes, I would. I hearken back to my comments regarding the quote from Bob Fuller. There is no right to an unobstructed view from structures built on adjacent property in Connecticut. That's the law. It's black letter law. And I appreciate the concern of the abutters, but unless there's a view easement protecting their view, they have no rights. In addition, some people would say that a home constructed on this rather large lot for this zone, this is an R12 zone, this is 0.9 acres, that the impact on neighbors on property values, for example, if Carol York subdivided to 3 lots or 2 lots, which she probably could in an R12 zone, that the impact on values is not a consideration for the planning commission. And that's also black letter law. If the zone is correct and the subdivision regulations are being met, property values, traffic, they're not a consideration for subdivision approval. So I would ask that the planning commission members take that to heart. My client intends to build a home for herself and her family. It's not going to take up 0.9 acres. That I can guarantee. My guess is that the ground floor of the home will be less than, and maybe Carol can comment what she's thinking of, but less than 2,000 square feet. If it's a 2-story home, that would be a 4,000 square foot home, which is fairly large, but would take up a relatively small portion of that 9/10 of an acre. So first of all, I don't think it's a consideration for you, but I don't see it as destroying any view that the Cates may have from their home.
Okay, I'd like to respond to that yet again. First of all, to the commission. The zoning regulations, thank you for that quote, that's very powerful. But these zoning regulations were provided and written by East Lyme, I assume. And they did say that we should not obstruct scenic views. So yeah, I know the broader quotes from.
If you take a look at 7.2L, your black letter law is not black letter law in East Lyme. Okay? In fact, it's very specific, and it talks about one of the considerations in requesting an exemption is the blocking of views. It's right in the regulations.
7.2L of the subdivision regulations?
Correct. Line L in 7-2.
Protect steep slopes to control soil erosion and water runoffs, as well as maintaining scenic views other from areas such as bluffs, ridges, and river views.
Yes, but it's of and to. This is of and to. And
excuse me, one person speaking at a time, please.
I'm sorry, I'm a lawyer too, so we tend to get that way. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we've heard some comments about blocking views, and we've heard some comments saying what the laws with the state of Connecticut are. Are there any other people wishing to address the commission tonight?
I pushed *6. Can you hear me, Jen?
Barbara, I do have other people here that may want to speak.
Oh, okay.
You've already spoken, and so have the Cates. So I'm going to ask you guys to remain on mute until I give other people an opportunity to talk. I have a Paul Grady. Mr. Grady, did you want to make a comment?
I hadn't intended to, but I'll just say that I have a contract to buy the house at 92 Old Black Point Road. We don't live in Niantic now. We've been coming to Niantic for 40 years. I'm a member of the Niantic Bay Yacht Club, been on the board for 10 years. And on a personal note, the person who developed 92 Old Black Point Road in the 70s was a family friend of ours. He was also a Commodore of the Niantic Bay Yacht Club, and I'm sure he'd be excited to hear what's happening and to have Carol as a neighbor. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that.
Holly Magna. Holly, if you want to go ahead.
Hi, it's Holly Magna. I abut Carol's property also, and Carol is a nice neighbor. We were a little shocked, when the subdivision sign went up because I was just sort of taken aback by that. But what Henry and Janet were saying, I know in the general provisions for 7-2 line L does make provisions for scenic views from bluffs, etc. So I think one of the concerns might be that, depending on how Carol sets her house when she plans it, if she pushed it back a little further towards the east, it might be less of obstruct less of the view. I mean, it's a beautiful area, as people around us know. So just, you know, a concern.
Thank you. Joseph Stafford, Mr. Stafford, if you want to speak, go ahead and unmute yourself.
No, I have no comment. Thank you.
Okay, so is there another member that's, or
Yes, my name is Barbara Johnston, 35 Seacrest Avenue, and I'd like to know how many houses could be built in this lot if this house isn't built. That's proposed.
thank you. Would the applicant like to address this question?
Bob, you want to address that with the open space considered?
You're muted.
Oh, all right, there. Sorry about that. No matter what is done here, there can only be one house built on a residential lot in East Lyme. We're not allowed to have more than one home on this lot. So there will only be one home no matter what we do. If this subdivision goes through, we can only build one home. We cannot build more than one home on a lot in East Lyme.
Thank you.
Can I speak, Jen?
Please,
Jen,
please.
you got it muted. I can't hear Jen.
I think she's having a issue with her audio there. Ms. Johnson, did you have something else that you would like to say?
Well, yes, being that it's an R12 zone, the last person that spoke, I believe, is an error because water and sewer is being brought into this acre plus whatever it ends up to be, and more houses than one can be built in this location with water and sewer approval. So how do you limit, to be sure, for the property owners next door or above, wherever they are, show that only one house is going to be built, whether it's 2 stories or whatever the height limit is. But I like to see it saying just one house on this property.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So the question is, how many houses will this piece of property support? Is it, that's correct?
I've already
right?
answered it. It only supports one, and that is all that is allowed, period.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other members of the public that are looking to speak? Jen, you might have to use sign language because I can't hear you.
Or tell us in the chat.
There's one other person. Do you still have control of? Okay, so let's hear from the, for the record, please state your name and address.
Okay.
Okay, so Mr. Cates, if I'm understanding that you wanted to speak again?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Anything further?
All right, so Jen, do we look like we have some more?
Everyone.
Okay. So members of the commission, does anyone have any questions or comments, concerns, things that they'd like to talk about?
I do have one just clarification point, if I may.
Yes,
Kirk.
please.
Just so that we're all on the same page on section 7-2 of our subdivision regulations. And I was hoping that Gary could help cement this in our minds. It's my understanding that that applies only to parcels of 10 acres or more, or subdivisions of 4 or more lots. Is that the case?
That's correct, but the paragraph goes on and says that the planning commission may apply these provisions to subdivisions of less than 4 lots in determining the appropriateness of the open space or recreation area, and whether public access shall be required. The commission shall consider the plan of development map designations and the subject site's characteristics with respect to the following objectives. And the one we heard that was pointed out was objective L, protect steep slopes to control soil erosion and water runoff, as well as maintaining scenic views of and from areas such as bluffs, ridges, riverways, etc. So I think you would use that criteria to determine the appropriate location of the proposed open space.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you. That's how I understood it, and I appreciate that confirmation.
Whoever's, Jen, can you screen share a wider picture of where that house is and kind of get like a sense of all the properties around? I think I saw one of the pages that I'd like to just look at one more time that kind of shows the plots surrounding it. I think there's one that has like the whole neighborhood.
Should be the cover sheet, or the next sheet has the soils map, I think shows it. There we go.
Okay, so the one that we're talking about is the gray one, which, okay. So these are all the lot numbers. We're talking about lot number 132. Okay, I'm not seeing a big difference between the way 129, 130, 125, 124. All right. Thank you for sharing that. I'm good with that. Does any other commission members have any further questions or would like to get clarification on anything? Or Jen, did you get any more notifications about anything? Okay. Okay, so with that, Mr. Gaishel, did you have any comments that you would like to share?
I don't have any comments. They seem to have addressed all the outstanding items from the last public hearing that were in question. They've addressed the issue on their position on the scenic view. I would note that section 7.2 says the planning commission may apply. Again, that's in determining the location of the open space. So while they're they no longer are requesting the waiver. Again, I would imagine that if the planning commission was so inclined, they wanted to waive it, they could. But now that they're not proposing that, there may not be a need to. The location in terms of the open space along the rear property line as proposed, it abuts a much larger contiguous piece of property. So I think possibly for future development of that piece, if it were to be developed at any other time, it would possibly, we could look to combine some acreage from that piece with this little strip of land to have a larger contiguous piece of open space sometime in the future. So, there's opportunity there in the future for expanding the open space in the area along the rear property line. But short of that, ever coming to fruition, it is just a strip of land, only a few feet wide. I don't see much environmental benefit there, but again, it can play a role.
Thank you, Mr. Gaishel. And I believe the applicant asked for some time to give some closing comments. I believe we're ready to move there. Yep. Okay. So let's turn it back over to the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I'm sure you know, subdivisions are a little bit different than a lot of land use applications. Planning commissions don't have a great deal of discretion. If a subdivision, and this is a very, very small subdivision, creates one additional lot of 0.9 acres with 0.14 acres of open space. So the usable land on this lot is 0.76 acres. And as Bob said, it's a single lot, can only support one home. If a subdivision complies with your zoning regulations, and zoning already approved the rear lot and the subdivision regulations, and I believe that it does comply with the subdivision regulations, then I think you must approve it. It's a very, very small additional lot, which is consistent with the neighborhood. The map that Jen just showed a whole bunch of even smaller rear lots in this neighborhood. The neighborhood has a lot of them. So this is terribly consistent with what you already have in that area. I certainly hope that you believe, as I do, that this 0.9 acre lot with 0.76 acres of usable area is consistent with your zoning regulations and your subdivision regulations. And I ask that you approve it, that you approve the waivers, which Bob Fanner explained, I think, in detail to you. They're eminently approvable. I think it would be, frankly, a terrible injustice if the Planning Commission didn't agree with me. Of course, I'm an advocate, so I have my own position. But I think Carol deserves this. She should be able to build a new home for herself and her family. And I sincerely hope that you approve the waivers in this subdivision application. And I thank you very much for your time and consideration.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gaishel, do you have any other further comments or see any need to add any other items to the record?
I don't. I would just point out, I know the waiver, obviously, there was a number of them, and this on the stormwater, we have a report from our town engineer that's in support of that request to reduce the standard there, as they're pretty much at the end of the watershed to begin with, which is also worth noting. So it's unlikely that they'll exacerbate any downstream flooding.
And that's a letter from
the town engineer has provided his comments approving the stormwater design.
Okay.
I would also note, I heard that the proposed driveway will be gravel. They are required to put in a paved apron along the road edge. So there will be asphalt there to protect the road. But aside from that, the rest can remain gravel. But I have no other comments.
Okay. With that, I think we're ready to close the public hearing. Do I hear a motion to close the hearing?
Coach Gordon, I propose closure of the public hearing.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mary Ann Salvatore, motion to close it. Second.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Any further discussion? Okay, with that, we'll do a roll call vote on closing the public hearing. Michelle Williams,
Aye.
Thomas Fitting,
Aye.
Richard Gordon,
Aye.
Nicole Davison,
Aye.
Mary Salvatore,
Aye.
Kirk Scott, aye. Okay, so let the record show that we are closing the public hearing. Moving on to subdivisions and re-subdivisions pending. Item A, application of Kristen T. Clark, English Harbor Asset Management LLC owner, application for a 4-lot subdivision, re-subdivision of approximately 3.8 acres of land zoned RU40 located at 22 and 24 Upper Kensington Drive, East Lyme, Assessor's Map 40.0 lots 22 and 23. We're gonna table this discussion and continue the public hearing on the 10th, which brings us back to the subdivisions and re-subdivisions pending for application of Carol York, owner, application for 1 lot subdivision of approximately 1.4 acres of land zoned R12 and request for waivers from, is this correct here? This, I think one of these got dropped.
It did, but I would read it as it stands on the agenda.
Okay, yep, so I'm continuing on, of land zoned R12 and request for waivers from sections 7-2-1, 6-12-2, 6-8, 5-2-2 CII, and 5-6 on property located at 92 Old Black Point Road, East Lyme Assessors Map 8.3, Lot 132. So I think that we can table the discussion for this, and I would just ask town staff to review this and start helping us with potential motions.
Yeah, I can have that prepared for our next regular meeting.
That, and also it's hard to anticipate what's going to happen with the other application, but if you could help us with that too.
Yeah, certainly we'll do. If we get the information we need in prior, I can actually have something drafted up for that meeting.
Perfect. Perfect. So let the record show that we're tabling this discussion until.
Before we table, can I ask this question is, if we're meeting again on the 10th, and we're able to discuss then.
Yeah, that's kind of
what I
what
feel badly.
Sure. Yes, I can have it prepared for the 10th.
We would have to talk with, well, we can just, the public comment section is closed, so the applicant wouldn't really have much input other than to be present to witness everything. Do we want to ask if they'll be able to do that, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's really falling on staff. I don't think at this point, like you
Okay.
said, the applicant can't provide any more input, nor can the public. So I would be just drafting a resolution for you
Okay.
on the regulations and review of the record for your discussion on the 10th. I think that's
Yeah,
fair.
let's do it for the 10th. If we're going to meet and potentially take something off of the January meeting, I think that would be a reasonable thing to do. So we'll table this discussion till the 10th of December at our special meeting. Okay, so that brings us to zoning referrals, which I believe we have none. Is that correct, Mr. Gaishel?
That's correct.
Okay, and municipal referrals, I'm seeing here that we have none. Old business.
Mr. Chair, though, it does say none, but we do have one under new business. It was a municipal referral from a budding municipality. So just to let you know.
Excellent. What is our timeline for action on discussing that?
Well, we should probably put it on our 10th agenda. They have, I guess, a short.
Did they get hit by
Their
the?
public hearing is scheduled for Thursday, January 14th, 2021. I mean, it's just for us to review it. So, I mean, we have between now and then to comment if we're going to comment.
Okay.
It's not 200 pages like ours.
No, I can
Very
actually
short.
pick it up. It's like, that's it. It's maybe 50? I don't know. It's
less. It's less. It's short.
Less than ours.
I really want to read this. I think think I want to read it and have somewhat of a short discussion about it. Either on the 10th or what's our first meeting in January?
We have to, I believe it's the second Tuesday. That makes it.
Why don't we just put it on the agenda for the 10th, and then if we want, we can continue it. The
Yeah,
second Tuesday.
we meet again on the 12th, and their public hearing's not till the 14th anyway.
Okay, so that would give us a little bit of time in between that we could, make an action item or something for somebody to do something.
Okay, great.
Hey, Gary, is this just a formality that they're doing, or did we do the same to them?
Yeah, we did. We referred ours to all the abutting. It's actually a statutory requirement.
And did they give comments back?
No.
Okay.
So we may not comment.
Okay.
No pressure. But.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that is the new business. Wait, no, that's a municipal referral.
Right, which was placed under new business.
Okay, gotcha. And old business is none. Okay, so we have item B, fiscal year 21/22 budget.
Yes.
Mr. Gaishel, if you will.
Do a share screen here. Just a second. There we go. Okay. I don't know if you can all see that well enough. So several years back, for some of you who are new, the Planning Commission's budget got commingled with my department's budget. So I bring this forward to you annually. And the portions of this, obviously you can see there's my salary. I was adding, and I always ask every year for an assistant. But in light of COVID, I put in this administrative overtime. And this was a matter that really affects this commission, as well as some of the other land use commissions. And as you know, Jen has been providing her time to help manage the Zoom meeting and all the exhibits and so forth. So based on her hours and the numbers worked, I put in $1,000 here, and this would be spread across, again, two other commissions would have to budget as well for her time. Again, it's going to be a request. We have to sit down with the first selectman, go through this and see if that'll be approved. And that's just in anticipation of more Zoom meetings for the year of 2021. In the interim between now and the end of this fiscal year, we'll most likely have to ask, again, I'll work with the first selectman for an appropriation to cover the remainder of her time if we continue to Zoom. And that's something that we can have a more discussion with as a commission, and the need for that. You'll see that these maintenances of equipment and GIS implementation, that's all zeroed out because that got moved into our IT budget. And what's remaining is professional conventions and conferences. I increased that to 1,000. Figured training is probably important. They'll usually cut a little bit out of that typically. And as you can see, it's been 900. And we've only spent 486. The transportation allowance, I don't know why it's showing 0 because I always pretty much deplete that. But we budget 500 annually there. This printing line item, which we typically have for the printing of the POCD, being that most of our stuff has all been digital, And I think that's kind of the wave of the future, with very few copies actually needing to be made or mailed. The need for that printing line item, I think, is diminishing. What we do pay and what I do spend that on is plotter paper and ink. And that roughly, probably $250 to $300 annually there. And that's split with our engineering department as well. They also contribute to paper and ink. And then we $1,500 is budgeted for miscellaneous supplies. I got my fingers crossed. I asked for 2,000 there. Sure that'll get reduced. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, thoughts, comments in regards to really the administrative overtime, the recording secretary that covers obviously the recording secretary salary for minutes. And again, the amount there is going to vary based on the length of meetings. I would note, I did have Miss Lindo break down the number of hours since we've been doing Zoom. And interestingly, 35 of those hours came from wetland meetings versus almost a total of 35 came from both zoning and planning combined. And I think that may just have been the nature of the applications that we had in front of wetlands. So maybe that's an anomaly, I don't know. But nonetheless, I'm looking to budget for it this year coming forward, as we can't predict what's going to happen with COVID. Jen plays a critical role, I think, in managing who's speaking, who's not, and the watching of hands. That does help me significantly. So I don't have to necessarily do that and be watching the screen. And it also, in my opinion, helps keep things very transparent and above board. That I'm not looking to, quote, silence anyone, end quote. So, and nor are the chairs and the vice chair, secretary, and so forth. That said, I think it's a critical role. Thus, I'm asking for the money. Hopefully, we'll be able to get an appropriation for the next 6 months if need be. Any other questions? I'll be happy to entertain.
That's always a wild card, like the amount of overtime and recording time, because like even like the Twin Lakes application that we saw, that one went and that consumed a lot of time too. So I don't know. I mean, do you think they would, do you think adding more time to that? Do you think it would be,
I would note between May and October, Ms. Lindo accrued roughly 56 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of looking at that was a 5-month period, and that was between all 3 commissions. So if you average it out, this is more than enough to cover her for these meetings,
right?
Even if we had a couple of special meetings in between. So, and with the idea that I'd be asking for the same amount in the inland wetland budget, and assuming my colleague, Mr. Mulholland, requests the same in his zoning budget, then there'd be ample funds to cover those hours.
So Gary, just to be clear, you're asking for this for next year's budget, but you're going to ask for a special appropriation to cover.
Most likely, unless I come up with, that's correct, Mark. If I can come up with another way to manage this, for the next 6 months, certainly I can maybe avoid having to do that. But short of that, and based on our current, I guess, setup here, I'd be asking for that in a special appropriation, probably in January. I'll have to talk to Mr. Nickerson about that.
Yes, yeah, you may want to do that. We're also, Board of Ed is also projecting a $1.6 million hole in their budget this year. So happy times ahead.
Wow. All right, so are we looking, do we need a motion to, well, I guess first off, does any of the commission members have any other questions or comments?
I did, Kirk. I just wanted to take an opportunity to say thank you to Jen and Sue and Gary, because I can't say enough. how important all three of you are to this process. And I don't think that, you know, our fellow residents always know how much work you do during this meeting and outside of it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm not hearing any further comments. So I think I'm looking for a motion to approve the budget.
I'll move to approve our FY22. Is that what we're on? Budget?
Correct.
As presented.
Do I hear a second?
I second. Richard Gordon.
Thank you. Any further discussion? No. Thanks for putting the budget together, and thanks to Jen and Sue for all their hard work also. And I guess with that, we'll move to vote. Michelle Williams,
Aye.
Thomas Fitting,
Aye.
Richard Gordon,
Aye.
Nicole Davison,
Aye.
Mary Salvatore,
Aye.
Kirk Scott, aye. Let the record show that we are unanimously approving the budget for fiscal year 2021. So that brings us to we have the bylaws on the agenda here. I think if everybody just takes a minute to read those on their own and review, I think Jen or Gary will send out an email also that has a link to some important stuff that I was talking about earlier. I think that would suffice for addressing the bylaws for now. And
would you want this on maybe the January agenda for discussion?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. It's good to have reminders of what framework we're supposed to be operating within. So I think this is a good thing to have on the agenda. Which brings us to item D, election of officers. And with that, I think I am turning it over to Mr. Salerno.
Yes. All right, speaking of bylaws, you guys, in the bylaws, every December, you guys have to vote on election of officers. So another year has gone by. Thank you for Michelle and Kirk for another well-done year, especially in these trying times. So I will open it up to nominations we'll start with chairman. Are there any nominations for chairman?
I would like to nominate Kirk Scott to serve another term as the chairman of the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion for Kirk Scott. Do we have a second?
I have a second there for Kirk Scott.
Excellent. We have a nomination on the floor. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? One more time, any nominations? Okay, that being said, I will close nominations. We have one nomination on the floor for Kirk Scott. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I think that was 6. Do we want to do a roll call or are we okay with that? We're good? Okay, congratulations, Kirk. I will turn it over to you for secretary.
All right. So I'm going to open it up for nominations, and I would like to nominate Michelle Williams as secretary.
I second.
Thank you, Rich. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? And one more time, any other nominations? Hearing none, let's go for a vote. I'm going to do the roll call vote. Michelle Williams.
Aye.
Thomas Fitting.
Aye.
Richard Gordon.
Aye.
Nicole Davison.
Aye.
Mary Salvatore,
Aye.
and Kirk Scott, aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Kirk, and thank you, everybody else.
By the way, I don't know why we do it 3 times. Roseanne Hardy always did it in zoning, so that's why I do it.
It sounds much better when you say it. You sound all official. Okay, so that, thank you everybody for that. It's really good to have a good crew like you guys, and I think we are doing I think we're doing a good job. So, and I really appreciate everybody stepping up and helping out. So this brings us to new business. We have a request of Leonard L. Ontizi, 104 East Patagonia Road for a release of lien of $1,200 bond for the installation and maintenance of public improvements for the subdivision of 104 Patagonia Road. This bond was initially posted in 2006.
So I guess for your edification, as you see, the bond was posted in 2006. It was a 1-lot re-subdivision of land or subdivision of land. The property has not yet been completely developed, so there's still a lot out there. So my opinion is we can't actually release the $1,200 because they never built anything. What I do believe, and what I gleaned from talking with Mr. Montesi was that he's looking to sell the parcel. So what I think after I looked into this, I will have to advise him that he'll need to actually just have the bond be replaced. So the new homeowner can put up a new bond. So right now, it would be my advice that the commission does not release the bond because the work has not been completed.
Yeah.
And I know this does say for public improvements, but there was very few public improvements. Really, it was just the apron, and it was mainly for erosion and sedimentation control on the site.
And that was never done?
Well, they didn't build a house yet. The lot exists, so you
Right.
still need the bond money to develop the lot. But if he wants his money back and he wants to sell the lot, well, in order for us to release it, we need to have it replaced with another check or another form. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so
So,
do we,
no
we
action.
don't need to take, do we need to vote on this, or?
I would just not take any action on it.
I think we can acknowledge the request and
Just-
not act.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Any other opinions about that? Anybody? Okay, so, yeah. Okay, so this is, brings us to the final item on the agenda, adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Ooh, you guys like this meeting a lot. Nobody wants to be done.
I submit a motion to adjourn, Rich Gordon.
Thank you, Rich. Do I hear a second?
Second motion.
Thank you, Mr. Fitting. All those, well, let's just do the roll call since you guys are really like trying to drag this out. Michelle Williams,
Aye.
Tom Fitting,
Aye.
Rich Gordon,
Aye.
Nicole Davison,
Aye.
Mary Salvatore,
Aye.
Kirk Scott, aye. Okay, so the time is 8:40 and meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you on the 10th. Hopefully, we'll get a lot of stuff off of our plate so that we can ring in the new year well rested. And I hope everybody stays safe and has a great holiday season. And look forward to seeing everybody. Oh wait, we have one meeting before then. Okay. I'll read that out of the minutes next time. That's my dry run for my Christmas or my holiday farewell. So have a good night, everybody. Thank you very much and stay safe.
Good night.
Thank you.
Aye.
Bye.